is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
It is 7 minutes after 9. Kenya's biggest conversation. We come to the final hour of the show this week. 21 young boys died at the fire incident in the Russia Hillside Academy. The story here is their fears of cover-up as the burials of the 21 children who died in a school fire in Nyeri began yesterday. Questions are being asked about the silence for the investigations into the tragedy. 9 victims were buried yesterday. 2 boys are still admitted to hospital. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua led the families and mourners in an emotional service at Moiga Stadium in Kieni constituency. 21 is not just a number. They are young, promising young men with families at home. Robbie Brandon Mugo Gekonyo, 13 years old. Timothy Weru Gadogo, 13 years old. John Komunjuguna, 13. Michael Ndongo Muredi, 12. Roy Victor Muturi Chege, 12. Ernest Ngaroye Mwangi, 12. Travis John Kariuki Munyeki, 12. Kent Mungai Mwangi, 13. Timothy Wamai Gedenji, 14. Ferdinand Karuku Washira, 12. Samvin Munene Maina, 12. Louis Mashira Gaku, 11. Robinson Theuri Kamitha, 13. Kelvin Kabogo Jogu, 13. Louis Wairago Maina, 12. Success Kingori Wanjao, 12. John Munga Gedenji, 12. Emmanuel Maina Gedenji, 13. Collins Muredi Washira, 11. Emmanuel Kirago Gashorohio, 13. And Bernard Warutere Kuria, 12. It's not 21 as a number. It is 21 names. It is 21 boys. 11, 12, 13, 14. Young. They died in a fire.
Yes, they did. And it breaks my heart because every single one of those deaths could have been avoided. That's what breaks my heart.
Yep.
That you didn't need to. And the sadder thing is that this is going to continue to happen in equal or more measure if we do not do the things that we are supposed to do, whether it is a law that has been set or it is by virtue of just human conscience alone. If we do not do the things that we are supposed to do, in equal or in greater measure, tragedies like this will continue to happen. And it goes back to the question of how much we value. How much do you value the Kenyan life? Whether you're feeding a child, educating them, keeping them safe, whether you're making sure there's food available in the country, whether you're creating healthcare, whether you're creating proper road infrastructure, where do you value? Where do you place your value? What is your value meter? Because if it was high, you would make sure that the standards that are required by law would be set. You would make sure that there's proper reporting. Even after the fact, you would make sure that you tell your people what exactly happened and what you're doing to make sure that it doesn't happen again. If your value meter was high, you would. The very mundane thing that you're supposed to do, check that this thing exists, you would do it. If you're supposed to report on a certain thing, whether it's an inadequacy and overflow, you would do it. But by virtue of the fact that we do not, it only points to we don't see a tragedy or a disaster happening, and we don't think anything is going to happen. So we don't keep our standards high.
You know, Omboko Milema is the chairman of KUPPET. He says, it's like the Ministry of Education wants the country to forget that 21 children died. Somebody must be called to account. How long shall we talk about a safety manual that is not being observed? The questions asked include the last inspection, if any, by the Ministry of Education before the tragedy, and if the school had been inspected by the county government for compliance with safety regulations. Now we know it's not just the county government or the Ministry of Education. It's actually a department, a directorate in the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection. The directorate that has been mandated by law to be the regulator of fire standards in the country and the enforcer of fire standards in the country. Has this directorate ever sent any of its certified auditors to this school? At all. There are questions about compliance in the building materials after it emerged that part of the dormitory was made out of timber. The government recommends that such should be made of permanent material. President Ruto promised investigations into the fire tragedy. He said, I instruct relevant authorities to thoroughly investigate this horrific incident. Those responsible will be held to account. Who's leading the investigation? Because there's a matter of death, DCI comes in. But is the directorate of this whatever is it part of this investigation? Is it doing its own investigation? The Cabinet Secretary for Education said, we are keen to establish the cause of this tragedy. The DCI is leading in this process. We are also carrying out an audit to establish any omission on the part of our officers. We will hold to account anybody found culpable. We have also commissioned a nationwide audit of public and boarding schools to determine the level of compliance with the school's safety manual. Again, I ask, during this entire time of tragedy of fire, have you heard of that directorate?
Did you know that DOSH existed?
It's the first time that I and many of us have heard of this Directorate of Occupational Safety and Health Services. It exists. Created by law, the Occupational Safety and Health Act. With regulations, the fire safety reduction rules in place.
That anybody who classifies as a workspace in this country then is supposed to abide by.
Yes.
That's the one that blows my mind.
Okay.
That it completely blows my mind that they are aware. Everybody is aware that if you are operating within a workspace, then the awareness of certain things that you should do then should be top priority for you. But it is clear that that doesn't exist. But Eric, I have to go back to the thing that I said. If you have a set of requirements that are supposed to govern how you deal with spaces where humans are supposed to be kept safe, and it is a suggestion to you, then really
it just becomes that. It just becomes that, a suggestion. So this needs to actually happen, that we get the proper agencies doing the proper job that they were established to do by law.
Do your job.
Yeah. Today, I know Wilson was, bringing that awareness, and thank you to him. Now we know where to direct all our fingers at. It is that entity called that Directorate of Occupational Safety and Health Services. Do your job. Do your job.
Do your job.
Our next guest is here. He's late. He'll tell us why he's late. Senator Dan Manzo is a senator from Makueni County. No, he's a senator from Makueni County.
From.
These senators have started coming with their own issues now. The definition of
grammar.
Senator, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Yeah.
My apologies. I had many things to do in the morning.
That's not a problem,
But
my
I'm
friend.
happy. I finally got here. I also assumed the time you drive here is, early in the morning you come faster than when it's 9 o'clock. So my apologies.
Not accepted, but we shall move on. Karibu though, it's good to have you back here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
CT says hi, he's not around, but he left us as a proverb. But before the proverb, you talk, you are a politician.
Yes.
You are constantly on the phone. Someone has called you, they're talking, or you need to call somebody.
Yes.
Somebody has called you, you need to coordinate. So you want to make sure that you are constantly able to communicate, right?
That's right.
So the people who work with you, let's say your PA, your assistants, your researchers, also need to be able to communicate because they are talking to many people across Makueni County, across the country, so they can bring information to you.
That's true.
You have to make sure that those people are also able to call without saying insufficient funds.
That's right.
Safaricom came up with a package, and they called it the all-in-one.
Oh my goodness.
Package, because they noticed that sometimes Senator Manzo's PA would be calling the senator and briefing the senator on something, an assignment that he had been given to do, and he's reporting back, and then it's like, Kango Kunye. Because Imeisha.
That's right.
And then he has to go and buy, new airtime, and then now call you, and then we continue the conversation. By the time he's trying to call you back, he finds you have been called by somebody else.
Yes.
So,
Or I'm already in session.
Or you're
There
already
you
in
go.
session.
Back to session. You can't
Yes.
So the all-in-one package says, if you buy this package for a month, 30 days, you get airtime, that's calling minutes, you get SMSs, you get data, and you get WhatsApp for free.
Wow.
And it ranges from 500. 500 gives you a different package. 1,000 different package. For example, 2,000.
Yes.
2,000 gives you 1,000 minutes of call time.
Oh my goodness.
2,000 SMSs, 17 GB of data, and free WhatsApp. And it's valid for 30 days.
Oh, the CEO of Safaricom is very brilliant.
Chilio?
He went to school with me.
That's why he's brilliant.
That's why he's brilliant. You have to land somewhere. Okay.
You brilliant people. Very good. Yeah. So let me give you the day's proverb. And the proverbs this week are from Senegal.
Senegal?
Yes. Today's proverb: if you speak, speak to him who understands you. If you speak, speak to him who understands you. What's your interpretation of that proverb?
Meaning, if the person doesn't understand you, don't bother speaking to them. You may be disappointed, or it may end up in a quarrel. So it's a good proverb. You learn something from it. Maybe for politicians, we should shut up to those who don't want to speak to us. Maybe. Maybe that's why Gachagua is not talking to Ruto.
You see, it's a misunderstanding.
Somebody's not understanding something.
So stop speaking.
Yeah, so the first thing is just, and I haven't been speaking for quite a while.
Yeah.
You see, even Gachagua has been removed from WhatsApp. You know, it started from silence.
He has been lefted from a WhatsApp group.
And now when you are removed from no communication at all, even when the president leaves the country, he doesn't say. So the deputy doesn't know he's already left.
Way. It's a bad situation to be in, isn't it?
Yeah, and that proverb serves it right.
We hear from the grapevine that the Senate is facing a biting cash crunch.
A serious one.
What's the issue?
You know, devolution is very expensive. And you see, like, I'll give you an example, like the Committee of Agriculture has a lot of bills. And you see, when you do public participation, that's where many bills fail. And then you are unable to sample the country sufficiently. And you need also to do participation with the governance. You need to do with COG. Then you find, as a committee, you are not allocated enough money to sample out the country sufficiently. And probably what will be fair, in the minimum, if you are doing public participation, it must be 25 counties at least. They will give you a yes or a no, and it must be in different parts of the regions of the country. So that has not happened over quite a while. And that's why when a lot of our bills, when they migrate to the National Assembly, they crash there. There will be so many issues be raised. Oh, you mean there's this bill? We also grow dengue. We never saw you people. You know, there'll be all manner of things. And if you are dealing with cotton, the same thing. If you are dealing with fishing, the same thing. So the committees have not, you know, when you do the share of National Assembly and Senate, when you get their budget and you share out, then you find the work for Senate is so loading. It's big time. And then, you know, we once in a year do Senate Mashinani. Like this year, by now we should have already gone to Busia, but it was postponed to end of October to allow the government to look for funds to be able to do that.
What does this mean, that you don't have money?
You know, it's a budget which has been reduced. Okay. And not only us. You saw a bill come back from the president, Division of Revenue Bill, coming back to Senate with the direction that now that finance bill never was, that you reduce the money for development for the counties. I mean, it has never happened like that. That's an illegality in itself.
So what you're facing, is it a reduction in budget, or is it no money coming to the Senate? What are we dealing with here? Because,
Both.
see, a cash crunch is where you are supposed to be getting 100 shillings as budgeted, but you don't have the 100 shillings. Or are you saying that we would have wanted to have 100 shillings, but the budget came at 50? What are we dealing with?
Both of them have happened. You have a proposed budget, which Treasury has no money for. In fact, I've been in Parliament for many years. For the first time in the last 2 years, have activities for Parliament in total delayed, including delay of salaries. I've never seen it, including delay of payment of our staff, It has never happened, all the years Justin Muturi was speaker or during those other regimes. But right now, Parliament is the last place to squeeze. Because if Treasury squeezes Parliament can squeeze back. But it's unable to fight back. You go to Treasury, Honorable Badi will tell you, I don't have money. So although you have a budget, and other than reducing, and it makes it very difficult, to legislate, and more important, for devolution. I was very surprised when you got a proposal to reduce money for development. It must always be added or increased for counties. And that is yet to be sorted out because that division of revenue bill has not, come to final conclusion. Really, as a senator, can you vote to reduce the money in your account? I think that bill must fail because if you reduce money in your account, then it means wind up Senate. There's no need to have Senate. Close it down.
Let me ask you, Senator.
Yes.
So if you look at reduced funding, walk us through some of the things that means. If there's reduced funding, if there's a cut, what does it mean that Senate now is no longer able to do?
It means when making our law and through the committees, it means the work of the committees is reduced. And I've given you a very good example of public participation. Every single committee has to go back to public on any legislative proposal, including us. When you are in, I said, the Committee of Agriculture, it must sample out the country properly. And you know what? That's why that's why we went very wrong with the law of the levies. The house levies. You see, we never went for public participation. We asked for it. It was overruled, and mainly because of budgetary constraint and time framework. The way the president needed that bill urgent on his desk for signature, and that's why it's an illegal bill. We're already arguing it in court. The judges are here to decide. But we never went for public participation. If you don't do public participation, you have not made law under the Constitution. Even if National Assembly does public participation, we must also do public participation when the bills come to Senate. And the bills which come to Senate deal with the devolution. And therefore, you must reach the counties. You must find out in Mombasa how much land does the government have to build the housing. What is there in Garissa? What is there in Mandera? What is there in Kisumu? And in fact, from the feedback we get from senators who come from those areas, really there is no such land. And the little available for government, if you build on it a private house, haven't you not allocated this land to a private person? All that feedback we never did. And the most unfortunate thing, about the role of Senate. So I think the government must not only just allocate budget, but also go on to actualize it. And that's not only happening to Senate, it is happening to every ministry. If you visit different ministries, they are unable to function. So President Ruto has a closely down government. It is not that Kenya doesn't have money.
Okay.
Kenya has a lot of money.
So the budget was readjusted to come back to the realities. Right?
Yes, it was.
And the realities were what Kenyans are able to give in terms of tax.
Yes.
True?
Yes.
Because that's what Kenyans said. Kenyans said, we reject the finance bill. We are not able to raise an extra 300 billion shillings.
Yes.
That was the message from Kenyans.
That's right.
So the executive went back to Parliament and said, Kenyans are not able to raise the 300 extra billion, so let's readjust our budget.
No, that's not what happened.
What happened?
Finance Bill 2024 was declined by Kenyans. And therefore, they went back to Finance Bill 2023, which covered quite a bit.
Minus
the problem, minus all this new proposal. Yes. Even if you make the new proposal, and even if you raise money from Kenyans, and you cannot manage the money, you get all of it stolen. You get all of it reallocated to projects where people are just harvesting the money, where a short job is done, where the bill of quantities is not followed. If you are making roads, the biggest problem has been running government. You've got the president running around the country unnecessarily. It is very expensive to move the president. You've got the president traveling abroad unnecessarily with so many people who have no role in whatever they are going to do. In fact, it's a shame even to those countries. For example, when they went to America, what did America need really to do anything to us, or to get any message from us? It needed the president, probably his wife, the Minister for Foreign Affairs, and our office in Washington, D.C. What are the rest of the people for?
The delegation that's currently in New York with the president.
Yes.
Do they all need to be there, including your colleague?
No, they don't.
Your colleague, Senator.
No, they should not be in the U.S. They're just wasting the Senate's money, the public money, for something you have not gone to achieve anything. In fact, in Unga, the president alone is enough. You don't need anybody else. Nobody else is going to talk other than the president. These other sideshow meetings, it must be, our representation in Washington, in America, is enough. The ambassador is enough to do all that.
And we have two. One the ambassador to the UN, the other ambassador in America.
And they're more than enough. All these other people traveling there, that money should have been reallocated to do other things in the country, to do the roads, to do the legislative proposals and things like that. But there is a total disorganization in the government.
I was leading on to something with the earlier conversation, so let me bring it back. Okay, so there was a supplementary budget that went to Parliament, right, in July.
July, yes.
Which was to face the reality that with no Finance Act of 2024, therefore the proposal to raise an extra 300 billion shillings or thereabouts has been rejected. We revert to last year's capacity. And the reality is that we were only able to raise 2.3 trillion shillings from ordinary taxes last year. And so let's readjust our budget. And that's what now you're operating with. But what you're saying and what we are hearing from others is that the National Treasury is not liquid enough to send money to all these required purposes.
It is in a liquid arm, and part of it is there must be a lot of
They're not able to send money to Parliament so that it can do its job.
Because they've sent all the money to the executive.
There's not enough money to send to counties. And you've also said if you go to some of these ministries and departments and agencies, you will find that they have not received money that they ought to have received now to start running some operations, right?
That's right.
Okay. Which means that our reality today is that we are not able to adequately finance operations of government with the taxes that we are collecting. That's our reality.
That's our reality, but it's only mismanagement of the monies we have and the monies we have borrowed, and we continue borrowing every other day. If we don't waste the money with unnecessary things, then the necessary things will be covered sufficiently, and we'll be able to cut ourselves to our requirements. There is a serious wastage in government. That's where it begins. There is serious corruption in government. As the President Uhuru admitted during his time, he said that we lose 2 billion shillings into corruption every day. So if you are losing that amount of money and you are raising, like we have raised a lot of money with the house levies, where is the money? You have not seen any houses being constructed anywhere. The money used to go and launch a road in Muranga, which was being relaunched. The money used just that day for setup was enough to grade that road to a very good standard. So they launched it and they never did anything to it. The so-called procurement, is all thuggery. You procure for somebody you have already known, and the people doing the procurement, they already know who they are going to give the business. So every other person being asked to compete is wasting time. And then instead of going by the BQ, you end up presenting to Kenyans as something weaker than the BQ. But the biggest place where we are losing money and we should save, it is the office of the president. Moving the president around is a very expensive affair. So the president should only move when when it is absolutely necessary. He should sit in the office and work.
Who should make sure that such things don't happen?
It is the House.
Parliament. You have been in the National Assembly for many years, more than a term.
Yes.
And now you're in the Senate.
Yes.
You carry the cross, my friend.
We have not refused to carry the cross.
My brother, let me tell you.
What has happened is just like the proverb.
We are bringing the whips.
You better do.
And the spear. You are hanging on the cross this morning.
That is true.
So Parliament has failed
completely
in its job of oversighting the executive.
Completely.
And now Parliament is now finally bearing the brunt. Your staff are not getting paid on time.
Yes.
That should happen. That should continue. That should continue. Ili iwe funzo. But your staff should get their salary. You guys shouldn't. Let's take a break. Let's get a second break, Senator. 28 minutes to 10. Senator Dan Manzo from Makueni County is our guest today. We are talking about, cash-strapped government. The Parliament is not getting the money that it should be getting on time. The Senate has stalled. We talked about it yesterday. The Committee, for example, on Agriculture has said we are not going to be doing our public visits across the country. Senate itself is saying we wanted to do our Senate Mashinani, where we go and have our Senate sittings in Busia County. We are going to postpone that. Senate is saying we wanted to host the East Africa Parliamentary Games. We can't. We don't have money. Oh my God, what are we going to do? Staff at the Senate are not receiving their salaries on time. And when the Senate asks the National Treasury, CS Badi has told them, sasa mnataka nifanya nini? Sina pesa.
Yes, Lord.